quiet corner of your mind, a shelf where all the broken things were piled. The stories told in whispers and in scars brought you here beneath these waiting stars. Not for a fix or just to soothe the ache, but for the chance that something new could break. So let the silence hold you like a seam where every thread of hope begins to gleam. This is the in-between. Welcome to the butterfly room, where healing's not an end, it is a tune. You learn to hum and gentle afternoons. Transformation blooms from a cocoon of questions.
That's right. Welcome to the Butterfly Room. And all along those lines, we have this amazing show with Miss Toya. Getting ready to bring her in, and she's got an amazing guest. And all along those lines, I don't know how the weather is up there in the New Jersey, New York area, but it's starting to get warm down here in Durham, North Carolina, and in areas, other places as well. I was just talking to a friend of mine from Kansas City where they were having some horrible weather, but they had avoided it because they had gone to Lafayette, Louisiana to do some church work and all along those lines. But I'm going to bring in Miss Toya, see what she's got going on in her mind. And I know she's at a particular event and all along those lines, but I had actually worked at my cultural arts center earlier today and everything like that, or one that I am part of. And it was a nice and quiet day, but I did step outside and I'm going like, with this morning, it was cool, maybe in the 50s or something like that. But by the time the evening time rolled around, I'm like, it's the high 80s. This is April, almost. This is not July, but it was feeling like 90 weather and everything like that. So how are you doing? I know you've got an amazing guest. Looking forward to hearing from this guest and all along those lines. So I'm going to turn it over to you and your guests, but and I'll probably join on at some point as well. But just wanted to say hello and to say that it's a good day and hopefully the weather is treating you all right there in the New Jersey, New York area.
Good evening, Mark. I'm in Pennsylvania right now at an event, and I'm by the water, and it's a little breezy. I had to bring a coat, however, but we have to be here Fridays at 8. So thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I got to talk about this amazing guest. When I met her, through the organization that I'm involved in, just a nice little quiet little thing. And then she says, "Oh, I have a book." So as always, customarily, as I say here, things just unfold. Right. And when I tell you the timing was right, went to her, she had a book signing at an event. And then from there, I picked up the book. And when I tell you, she is appropriate for what we want to do here on this platform. So thank you so much, Mark. No problem. Before I get into introducing who we're going to have today, her name is Toni McBride. And she is the author of That's Lovely. And when I tell you, we're going to let her unfold, but as I like to do, I like to give you a little bit about the author. And she was born, and she's a delightful mix of British wit and Southern hospitality. As you know, I'm a Southern girl. My family is from Mississippi, M.I., click like I, hunchback, I. And my other side of my family is from Fayetteville, North Carolina. So when I say that Southern hospitality, I think that's why our spirits mesh. Her unique perspective comes from her rich family heritage, a mother from Manchester, England, who is a passionate advocate in the disbarment of protest, and a father from Birmingham, Alabama, who made his mark in the civil rights movement. She now finds herself living in New Jersey, where I hail from, perfectly nestled between the vibrant cities of Philadelphia and New York City. Guess what? See how that works out? I am in Philly now, as they say, the Windy City, if I think I'm correct. But anyhow, I'm not going to do all that because I'm in party mode. And as you see, I'm getting ready for this event later on today. But now I want to welcome Toni McBride, an author, to the Butterfly Room. Let her in, Mark. All right, Mark, what you doing backstage?
Hi, Toni. Hi, how are you?
And I'm good. As correction is Chicago is the Windy City. I have to get my mind together. I actually had some champagne when I got here. So let me get together. But welcome.
Thank you.
I am just so blessed to have met you and for you to be able to fit into this platform with and this is your debut book. That's lovely.
This is. And I'm expecting to have this as a trilogy. This is part one. I've just finished part 2 and looking to have that published soon. And then part 3 will be a prequel.
Amazing. I like that. I'm a movie rat. I love to read. And that's something that, you know, coming from a Catholic school background, pretty much what we do is we read. We had summer reading lists. And I think that the children today are missing. But I think what it was, someone said, you need to be a lawyer. I said, well, I didn't like reading at the time, but I think what it was, I wasn't reading something that would get my juices flowing. And then once I went to school with those electives, I picked things for me so I can learn. But you know what? Sometimes our journey is what it is. And we may not appreciate the art of reading at that time. But my son was a reader, avid reader. So, you know, for that thing is because I was able to extend his vocabulary. And as you know, let the folks know who you are, because you also are a teacher by day.
I am a teacher. I teach at the high school level. Sometimes those kids just make me laugh all day long. And they keep me young. And I think that helps with my creative process.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what this is. This platform here is because I've been in this field for a very long time working with people. And, you know, I think it takes a special person that can deal with children. For me, someone said, why you wasn't a teacher? I said, because I worked in early childhood education. And sometimes from my experiences, it was the parents. And you may experience that with the parents. You see something, but you cannot say what you see. Then later on, some years, went to college, then started, you know, working as a at-risk youth counselor. That was the first job that I had. So I was working with these children. And then when I had the first young girl run away and come to my house, I stopped her one day. She had to go to the bathroom. I'm working on my master. She said, I got to go to the bathroom, Miss Toya. Took her to the bathroom. I heard her at my door.
Oh.
And that's when things changed. So just think about that. You're being a light. And then from there, that particular young lady said, you know what? I want to leave my home. And then from there, that's when I got into that. Then I ended up working in an adult field. And then now I'm mentoring again the little ones. So I think that's my purpose. Yeah. So I think that what you're saying now is you get it as a professional. So just tell us a little bit about this book and how it unfolds. I'm going to let you do what you do here.
Well, I just want to talk about the theme, You Are Your Own Awakening. Mm-hmm. And I want to say that one of the most powerful aspects of That's Lovely is that healing does not arrive as a savior. Mm-hmm. It unfolds through self-recognition, boundaries, survival instincts, and earned trust. So love becomes not corrective, right? It's not a corrective. It's something that you fall into, addictive, more or less, right? So it makes it more not a need to be fixed, right?
I agree with that. And I think that's more so because me working with the women's group, I think that that's the reason why I wanted to create this space. Because when you're working with women who are in legal situation, as you said, love is love, you know, and if you are a believer, God is love. So you have to think about that. When you wake up, the first thing you think about, oh, I am vibrant. However, for some people, love can be something where they say, I'm a movie rat. What's that movie? Thin Line Between Love and Hate. And what Martin Luther signed? He said, I love you. And then our lady in the movie, she went ham. So think about that. You don't play with those words. So you know, I'm gonna look at the table of contents. And when I tell you, when I got this book and I got home, right? Introduction says the way it is. And just ironically, I was sitting with some ladies where I'm at today, and I was telling them about the book. So now, you know, possibly they're gonna catch that playback. And the first page says no new friends. You know what the person who doesn't know you or I said? Didn't I just talk about that? And you and I had a conversation earlier about that introduction. If you can get into that, and then I want to kind of go why you and I had that conversation, but that's your introduction. Yeah. Explain to the listeners of the Butterfly Room. And it's a really good introduction, but it unfolds this book, ladies and gentlemen.
Survival shows up early in the book, right? From the opening chapters, Samantha, she's not closed off. She's just hyper aware. Her guardedness is learned. It's a learned response from disappointment, betrayal, loss of control. So she expects people to show their true colors, and she keeps her circle intentionally small because of that. So she isn't cold, she's calibrated, right?
Hmm.
Her boundaries are a form of intelligence shaped by her experiences. So that's where that comes from.
And a lot of women can identify to that because, as again, being a group leader and working with individuals who have had their children taken away. And one of the main things is a lot of pivotal moments in a woman's life or in a man's life, it can be around the subject of love.
Mhm.
And one of the things that in your thinking in a recovery model, you have a genogram. A lot of times you have to think, where's your family of origin? And as you can say that when you're working with children, you can say that you're meeting the mother and the father. And sometimes I've witnessed this, even just volunteering being a teen mom or a class mom. I wanted to see what my son was doing, right?
Mhm.
I was that parent. Miss Keaston, can you come and chaperone? We were at every trip. And you kind of get what I'm saying? So I don't know if anyone's listening. I wanted to know what my son was doing the day to day. So when he came home and said something, I can say, I'm not sure about that, about Mrs. So-and-so and Mr. So-and-so. Can you try that again? Right? So
Yeah.
from there, she knew a boundary, if I'm right or wrong, Samantha. So
Yeah.
that means Samantha was someone that was calculated, as you said, but she probably had life experiences that taught her what she needed as her armor.
Yes. Yep. But sometimes behaviors like that, survival behaviors, can be misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
She is assertive, but that can be seen as confrontational. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
she does respond strongly to disrespect. She refuses to be minimized, and in her business or in relationships, and she reacts quickly when she senses a threat.
Wow.
So these behaviors are often labeled as too much, especially in women. But in the book, they're protective mechanisms and they're not personality defects, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's an incident in there, a biker incident, and later her reputation kind of reinforces this. But Samantha doesn't freeze, she acts. So she's confronted by this guy. She doesn't freeze by his behaviors, his intimidation. She acts, she survives. And then later she carries the social cost of that survival, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, she got a nickname because of that survival. So the thing for that is survival doesn't always look pretty, but it looks effective because her response was effective, right?
And that's very pivotal because remember, you and I had a conversation earlier today because my practice is I like to speak with my guests prior to that so that we can gel. And it's funny, without being very deep with that, is that we discussed that with most people. There may be something that they've gone through. And when you say soft trauma, and this is what the Butterfly Room is about daily, I knew what I needed to do to help my consumers, clients, even now in my capacity at work. I read a lot of clinical information and the stuff that I'm seeing now. And we talk about that even on the couch at our the other podcasts that I'm involved in. And really, what people are actually going through, it trickles down. So
Yeah.
even now, from here, she was misunderstood. And for those when folks pick up the book, Mark, we wait for our ribbon. Mark, where my ribbon at?
I'm
Because
getting
I
you the
like to
ribbon
see my
across and
ribbon
everything
so we
like
can
that. They have
direct
the ribbon going
the
across and
viewers.
all in that space. It'll tell us about your guest and where she can be found and everything like that. So that's going to be created. But I did have a question really quickly as I get the ribbon situated and everything like that. But it sounds like there are different settings within this book, and I haven't had the pleasure of reading the book yet and everything like that. But I know that a lot of women, including some women that have been through abusive situations, get involved in a lot of organizations. I know some women that are in running clubs. It sounds like there is a
Mhm.
scene, or maybe one of your main characters in a bike club. I know that the Ebony Angels is a club that used to exist here in the Durham Raleigh area, and I think they may still exist. But there are a number of these biker clubs. My brother is in the Slingshot clubs, and which is the Polaris cars and everything like that. So I just wondered if you could talk about some of these settings that are existing, because sometimes people will find a avenue to relieve some of the tensions that they're going through, whatever those tensions might be, even if it's a soft abuse or something along those lines. But they'll find there like an outlet. And sometimes that might be biking, it might be running, it might be hiking, it can be a number of things. But it sounds like in your case, one of the characters is into biking.
Well, his description was a biker because he dressed like a biker dude. Her outlet was music.
Okay.
So she is a co-owner with her brother and his best friend of a nightclub. And so she's around music and that outlet there. And yeah, that's how she thrives with the
And that explains what's on here. Is this a keyboard for music? Is that because I was trying to? Okay, thank you for answering that question. Thank you, Mark. So what happens is Mark brings the testosterone here because he loves information.
I love information like that. And Dr. Diamond is here, and we will have the banner going. I am going to tease Miss Tony and all along those lines because I had mentioned when we first came on that I had a friend that probably could pass for her twin and everything like that. So if you can see that picture, that is Miss Margot and everything like that.
Well, you got to put Miss Margot again. It timed out.
Blacked out.
It blacked out. See if I can. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, blacked out. But let's see if I can find that picture and everything like that. But there is Miss Margot, as you can tell. That could be.
Oh wow, there is some resemblance.
Told you that could be resemblance.
Cute. She looks like me.
It looked like your distant sister or cousin. That's what that is. What are the parts of that? But thank you, Mark. Hey, April. Dr. Diamond, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thank you for coming on. So I'm looking at the table of contents, Tony. It said before falling, going all in, the setup, I got you back, and after. So now that you're saying that there's going to be a prequel, so now I kind of see what you're doing. You're going to introduce two things, and you're going to go backwards to answer some questions. Is that what it is?
That's right. That's it. But I also have on my website, I do short stories. So there's 6 blogs that are on there now that dive a little deeper into the side characters and how everybody became a group. Because like I said, she keeps her circle tight. And so those side stories help introduce how that happened.
That's great because the folks that I just was talking to about your book, they were asking for a book club. So I know we talked about with my in-person, I wanted to do something to that effect. So now we have some new followers who are going to be looking for that. So that would be something that they'll catch in the playback because that was asked. They were saying amongst themselves in Pennsylvania, we need to get back into our book club. And maybe this is one. So she looked at the book and she said everything that she needed to see. And we're going to see. And I'm going to direct them when I go out after here. I'm going to tell them that there is on your website, there are some blogs for that. Because
and book club questions.
Yes. Because there was something that I saw on your website. But I'm going to go into that in a second. But Dr. Diamond, how are you before we go into all of that?
I'm fine. I'm just here listening. That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on Friday.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to dive into that. So right now we have, there's a couple conversations that I see. Oops, I think you broke something. Wait, what just happened? Do you know me, ma'am? And it's a lot of different things. So from there, we'll go into that. Is that the blog you're speaking of, right? Behind the pages?
Yes.
So the one that got me was when I looked and it says, a new school, a new town. And as my mom puts it, a new start. Who needs this shit? I certainly don't. I'm not. And then from there, everyone goes into that. And that started in April. So if you want to kind of go into that a little bit.
So this is the origin of the best friend, her brother's best friend. And it shows the dynamic of how so they're in a small town. They grew up in a small town. And so this is the dynamic, how he became living there, and then how he met them and how they became friends. And then it'll go into her best friend. So that's the brother's best friend, the first one. The second one is about how Samantha meets her best friend. And then a couple of blogs about how they grow together.
Okay. And I know we discussed about, you said it was soft trauma. So again, with this platform is about healing. Everyone has going through what they're going to go through. And as I speak to different people, it's about perspective. So you have to think, when we got up this morning, we know we're in New Jersey, we're in North Carolina. We know what the difference is, what the weather is. And sometimes someone can be standing in the same place as you and they'll get something different. And that's what I've been noticing just from talking to people when folks talk about their trauma, their experiences. And I think that more so when you have siblings and you think about the genogram, you might have someone is the oldest, you might be the overachiever, you might have someone who has a middle child syndrome or something to that. So one of the things that I would do normally is just ask people what it was an exercising group. And then from there, when a person was able to mention what their upbringing was, and then that's how the conversation started. And I know that is similar to a blog, but I know usually just my thing is that sometimes when people are compelled, they might write something because they can identify with that. So from there, as an author, do you feel that some of the comments here with that it's building, where the readers are getting exactly what you wanted to from your work?
Actually, I have been surprised by some of the responses. I wasn't aware that readers would dive that deeply into the words in my story. You said earlier that I'm a teacher. I work in a high school. And one of my friends at work, she's an English teacher. I'm a social studies teacher. And one of her final projects is to have her students read a novel and write a book report. And one student read mine. And she would come and talk to me as she was working her way through. And one of the comments she made was, I really like the main character. She's a badass. I love that she doesn't have to be rescued. Because most of the books that I read, the girl, she needs to be rescued by the guy. And that's not happening here. And I love that. So, yeah, Samantha doesn't need love to rescue her in my book. She has her own empowerment before her love interest comes, right? She owns a business. She manages men who underestimate her, her brother and his best friend. She controls her environment. She chooses solitude over unsafe intimacy. And, this is representation. I want young girls, for sure, like that student, to recognize you do not have to be recognized. Like you say, you are your own awakening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her awakening isn't about becoming softer. It's about becoming more herself. Her growth is not about learning how to need someone. It's about learning when she wants to need someone. So when I'm having these conversations and people are picking that out of my book, it kind of catches me off guard, like I said, because I didn't realize people would read that deep into my words.
And you know what? But that's amazing, Tony, because that's one of the things that I would experience. I would have a topic and then someone would pick an item. And that's really what social scientists is. We have Dr. Diamond, who is the PhD. For me, it was more grassroots, not understanding how I got into the field. I just know what my charge was in life, and I persevered through that. A year ago, I had an extreme loss. I got through that the other day, 4-8. So when I post, sometimes it's just not for me, where people may do that because there are folks that need it, and I listen. And what keeps me moving is daily, thank you, Toya. Thank you. I needed that. So now, as long as I have the traffic, that's all that it matters, because this book is indicative of that, because I came from mostly boys, males in my family. So again, when you say that's lovely, that drew me in. Then when I went to the introduction, okay, no new friends. And so basically, when I met the ladies now, they said it was a confirmation. You wrote it. I felt it. That's 3 people who are in agreement. So the young lady who read your book, she needed something. She found it. That was her epiphany, her awakening. So when I post, it doesn't matter, because most of the times when you look at the status of where we are in our life, imagine you have not such a good upbringing. I didn't like high school. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't like high school because I stayed in my books. I went out maybe once a week, something like that, if that. But when I came outside, it was something that I had to say to myself, this is not my reality. I know what I'm dealing with. So now this particular student picked it up, and you weren't expecting that. So that's the perspective of us as individuals. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, just had a quick question. It's actually about the book and being an author and everything like that. Because I've got a friend of mine that has gone through a lot of trauma. She's gone through hard trauma. She's actually a grandmother of many kids. I think she's probably got like 12 grandkids, and she's a mother of 4. And all along those lines, I was actually talking to her about how many kids she's got and everything like that. And she's been thinking about writing a book because she went through a very traumatic marriage and a very traumatic life and everything like that. So I was wondering, at what point did you decide to become an author, and what advice would you give to others that are thinking that they have a story that they want to write? Because I mean, we all probably have a book in us. I know that I've even been featured in chapters and everything like that, but it doesn't sound like you were a planned author. You came into this unplanned and everything like that. So what advice would you give to folks that have a story that they feel that they need to tell?
Tell it, get it out, because that was me. This story was in my head and I had to get it out. And I sat on it for a while. So this story I wrote almost 10 years ago before I actually did anything with it. And it was actually the prompting from my brother. You wrote this and you're just going to sit on it. You're not going to do anything with it. So it's from his prompting that I actually got a little more serious about looking for someone to help me produce it and publish it. But yeah, so he thinks that I have a unique writing process. I either dream parts that I need to put in the book, daydream them, they come to me. It's not something where I'm sitting there trying to figure out what to write.
Divine intervention, if you're a believer, because I know a lot of this is on my head. Yes.
In my head, and I have to get it out. I mean, I actually have quite a few things in here that I need to get out. I just need to take the time to sit down and do it. But for anybody who wants to become a writer, just sit down and write. Don't worry about it being perfect right away. Don't worry about your grammar, your spelling. Just get it out. And then you can always come back and take a look at it again, revisit it, make your corrections, share it, get a little bit of feedback, right? And don't take the feedback personal, right? It's growth. Not everything is going to be perfect the first time you create it. So that's what I did. I wrote it. I asked for opinions. I listened to their opinions, and I made changes based on, their suggestions and their information. I sat and I was like, you know what, that makes sense. And then from there, that's when I went to the publisher. I submitted my manuscript. They said that they liked it, they were interested, and that's how I got it published.
That makes a lot of sense. Can I make a slight veer, and then I'm gonna leave y'all alone and everything like that? But you mentioned being a social studies and a civics teacher and everything like that. And I know that too often we hear that our kids do not have an understanding of what's going on in DC, or an understanding of what's going on in civics and politics, whether that's local or whether that's national or regional. I have actually owned the opinion that kids have a greater understanding than we give them credit for, but it's one that teaches that kind of course. I was wondering your take on that, because some people are not thinking that our kids have an understanding of like how a bill is created and what goes on in the White House or even in our local legislatures, whether that's in Virginia or whether that's in New Jersey, or whether that's in North Carolina where I'm at, or anywhere. But I am of the opinion that our kids are smarter than we give them credit for. But I was just wondering your take as a teacher on this.
I'll say the interest behind all the things that you just spoke about is about 50-50.
Okay.
So the courses that I teach for social studies are graduation requirements. US 1, US 2, world history. Those are graduation requirements. We do have electives that are more political that students who are interested in that will take. What I find in my classes, you just got to get the conversation started,
right,
so you can get those wheels turning. And whatever we're learning, I try to bring examples from today's world so they can actually make connections and understand what happened, why it happened, and why we say history repeats itself, how we don't want a lot of the history that we share to repeat itself, and how we have to be mindful and aware of what's going on around us. So I just think that if we start the conversation with them and we make the connections, that's enough to make them interested in learning more about the way things are, the changes that people are trying to create, or what they can do to actually make change and things like that. So it's about 50-50.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And like I say, I was one of those brown specks in my school, and that's one of the things that I would do my own self-study with papers and everything. So thank you for sharing. For anyone listening with your children, encourage them. You know, if you're in a school that maybe, you know, I was an honor student, I'm going to read something about my history, books that would not have been read. So just for you to hear that, and it was accepted. Back then, they didn't want you to know, no, this is the required reading. What we're requiring. I remember going into the National Honor Society. Oh, she doesn't have any volunteering at the school. She said, yes, this is a Catholic institution. However, she's going to volunteer here. So keep pushing, because I feel that sometimes what our children are being faced with, they're targeting, trying to shrink the information. You know, I look like what I look like, but I want to understand my origin. And as I state a lot, if you don't really know who you are, it's going to be hard to make a point. And I think with the character, as I was reading this, is one thing that I wanted to, you know, to talk about. Like you're saying now with just in the beginning parts of the book, now you're saying that her brothers, Andrew, who is this Andrew character? What is Andrew? You know, for folks, this Andrew character in this book, and you know, she had brothers there. So why was she trying to avoid Andrew? Explain this Andrew guy.
Okay, so the genre is a hate to love fictional romance. So when I said that she's undermined a little bit about at work, it's her brothers. They don't really they don't take her serious. It's family. She's working with her brother and his best friend. They've been together since high school, and so they make decisions without her, and it annoys her. And one of the decisions that they made was hiring Andrew. He's going to be the new DJ. So she decides, okay, so you hired him, you deal with him. I don't want anything to do with him. But when he meets her, he has a crush on her automatically.
That's how it's.
Yeah.
And why is it always the person that has the crush? Now, did she really like him? You need to get the book now. I'm just trying to give you a little sneak peek on it. Yeah. But this Andrew guy, the DJ, you know, the girls always like the DJ, you know.
Can I tell you, so if someone talks with me about my book, and I love it, I love having conversations about what people think and parts that they liked or even, you know, dislike, because I've had people come up to me angry. Why would she do that? Why wouldn't she do this? So I'll say, okay, so are you team Samantha or are you team Andrew? And Andrew is winning hands down.
Well, you have a question on the floor from the audience and everything like that. So one of your fans is asking, can we call Samantha a feminist? Maybe, maybe not, but that is a loaded term even in this modern day time and everything like that. So would you call Samantha a feminist? I'm a big fan of Pauli Murray, who was definitely a feminist, who was here in North Carolina. It was a judge and involved in the Brown versus Board of Education and other things along those lines. She wasn't a judge, but she was like a legal expert, is a better time for what she was historically. But would you call her a feminist, this character of yours?
I would say she is, but she doesn't realize she is.
I think a lot of folks don't know because, you know, for me, I talk. However, I think that folks' brains, they say you need to be around like-minded people. I'm just going to be nice and say that, because when you're younger, I think sometimes we outgrow folks. And I think that what we're passionate about, and as you become a parent, I feel that in my stage right now, what do I do next? And I think for anyone listening, reading is fundamental, as they said, but I love to get into a good book because sometimes I need to slow things down, and it lets me know that I'm not alone. And it also will, you know, you're cultured because you don't want to be biased. So I'm glad that someone wrote, am I a feminist? I am just a realist. And I think that sometimes when I bump heads, why can't we just agree to disagree? Everyone has a voice, but I think that sometimes when it becomes male, female, you know, colorism or anything like that, we kind of put each other in a box, but it shouldn't matter. I always say to folks, take my face off of it. What if I were just an individual, and in my capacity of work, I look at a lot of names and then I look at it, and then later on, that's why I see the face. But some of the stuff that I read, I'm never biased, because when I'm reading a clinical record, I'm like, wow, sometimes I can be wrong. And I think that, you know, never judge a book by its cover. Because again, for her to say this Andrew guy, now everyone is down for him. I think you guys got to get the book and see why they choosing Andrew and not Samantha. That's all I'm gonna say.
He is a different kind of survivor, right? His survival mode is quieter than hers. And I think that contrast for me is intentional, right? His trauma response is he reinvents himself geographically. He leads with charm and professionalism. He observes before asserting, and he absorbs hostility without escalating. So he survives by adapting, not dominating. His restraint is not weakness, it's earned emotional intelligence shaped by displacement and reinvention, right? So he survives by staying present, even when he's not welcome in the beginning, when she doesn't want to have anything to do with him, right?
Interesting. And I think that sometimes with the children, they'll have the little tab set, say, oh, this one likes him. But when you think as an adult, sometimes it's just energy and we don't know what the energy is. And I think that sometimes it doesn't necessarily always have to be romantic. It could just be that, there's a purpose for that. And that's something that I'm delving in and just talking to different people. And I think that we need to just be free of who we are. What does a butterfly do? We morph in 4 stages. So I'm going to ask this question in this book 1, which now you're telling us is going to be a trilogy. What stages do you think Samantha has gone through in this first book? Because I know you said there's going to be a book 2 and then a prequel. So what would you say, what stage, if we're comparing her to a butterfly?
I think her awakening isn't about becoming softer. It's about becoming more herself. Her growth is not about learning how to need someone, right? It's about learning when she wants to need him. So, yeah, she owns her own business, right? So she gets the undermine, like I said before. And so she has to navigate that world. And when growth happens, right? I don't know. I guess she learns that how to distinguish between a threat and discomfort, right? So Andrew's not a threat, but the guy
familiar. Would you say he's familiar?
No, not initially.
But wait, you said initially.
Right. It's discomfort for her because she's never interacted with anyone like this. Right. It's not a negative. It's just different.
So something new? Would the reader say is something new?
Yes.
Speaking of something new, your fan was raising this and everything, and it actually leads to the question I had. But they said this book grew on me once I started reading it. Now Samantha, Andrew, and others are part of my world. They are so alive to me and everything like that. And in that same sense, I was wondering, do you have any thoughts of turning this into something bigger and everything like that? Because I'm a big fan of a older TV show. It was called Bones, and it was a whole dichotomy of the relationship between the agent and the scientist and everything like that. But there was even some abuse conversations, even in that show, if you actually follow the storyline and everything like that, because they were having to do some adapting of things that they had gone through, some traumas that they had been through in their lives, whether one was seen as being the odd person out in school, because I think that's what the character of Temperance was, that she was the odd person out, the one that was very much into studying bones and science and everything like that. And the agent also had issues as well and everything. So I was just wondering, were you ever thinking of turning this into a TV show or a movie, or would you be open to that if TV show and movie people reached out to you?
So initially, right, when friends of mine read the book, they said, oh, I can see this as a movie. But after book 2, because book 1 is the foundation, book 2 has a different dynamic about it. I think I like book 2 because you already have the foundation and you can just go through their storylines.
And we never know. You saw how Twilight started. I'm just going to say that. And it's like whenever it plays, I just watched it again. And I liked at the end, breaking 2, when they go over the whole story. So only thing I'm saying is because I'm aspiring author too. And it's just for me as a cycle breaker listening to this story, I thank you. And I can't wait to finish this book. So you already know that folks are asking for a book club. So you need to give us the information and it can be shared so that we can join you, because when we spoke about this, a lot of times people don't want to share what they're going through. And I know that me having a lot of male cousins, and it was kind of hard where I needed to break out and have my own voice. And there might be some people that are listening where you feel that you shrink yourselves because we're not free. We don't share what we've been through, but once we let the mask down and the rose-colored glasses are also come down, we're able to live and enjoy life. And I think that this is what it is. So would you say that Samantha was able to start to morph, and now because we haven't read book 2 yet or seen it yet, do you feel that there's an evolution into the book 2?
Yeah, I absolutely do. But I just want to follow up. I could see it as like maybe a Netflix series instead of a movie. Yeah.
All right, anyone listening, Netflix, because when I tell you, I have not been watching my cable, and everyone else has this app thing, and I'm mostly on Netflix, and now Prime has some good movies too. So I don't know. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do have a question. I don't know if I missed this when you all started talking, but I'm curious about the title. That's Lovely. How did you come up with this title? And of course, I would only know by asking.
Yeah, I didn't get there yet, but thank you.
relate to their prospective traumas, because their traumas is basically what you're talking about. But I'm curious to know about the title that you came up with. That's Lovely.
He's English, and lovely is a very used word in the English. So my mother is English, so lovely, lovely, lovely. That's a regular word that you hear. So I use that in the title to represent him.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the little cue. And I have one other thing to ask. It says here, just looking at, it was a librarian member review. It says, I love this book. I love the romance of falling for a DJ and being swept up in that world. It gave me all the feelings and such a fun sense of nostalgia. I was wondering through what was going to sort of tear everything apart, and it was very relatable and of the time. It kept me hooked, and I highly recommend it and to someone looking to get swept up in a beautiful and unique love story. So when it says love story, I don't want to give too much, but to pull the folks in as far as a love story.
Yeah, it's a romance. So I know that there's the banter in the beginning and she tries her best to ignore him, but it's a love story. They're going to get together. I'm not giving anything away, right? It's a romance. So do they last? That's the question, right? Is there?
Well, there is a book 2 though, so that may be
a book 2. There is a book 2.
We'll see whether they last. We'll see whether they last or not. Hey, just really quickly, because you mentioned it said in the DJ world and everything like that, and I have friends that are DJs of all sorts, everything from the DJs that come out of the LGBT community to those that come from the hip hop community. Actually, I was just running into a friend of mine, a younger friend, and he was going to a party. I think it's this evening where they'll be dressing, and you'll love this, Toya, because you remember when we used to go to parties and people would be dressing in their 70s outfits and they would be judged for their 70s outfits. He's going to be judged on his outfits from the 2000s. I'm going like, we got to the point where 2000 styles are now going to be judged and everything like that, because that was only 25 years ago. But instead of like having to go back and get dressed in the 50s or the 70s, they're going to be dressing in the 2000s when I think flares were big and everything like that. So what kind of style of club is it that this particular club is set in? Is it more modern? Is it more like the 2010s or before the pandemic? What kind of club is the environment of the setting, for lack of a better term?
So I purposely didn't go very detailed in my description of the characters or the setting, because I wanted people reading the story to imagine themselves, imagine their friends being the main characters, being right there, being a part of the story. And so when you give too much detail, you kind of take a little bit of that away, right? So now they can, but it is a modern time club, but they do have theme nights, right? Like ladies night. What club doesn't have ladies night? But they had old school hip hop, like from the 80s, right? Like Africa Bambaataa, like old school night and things like that. So,
And then one thing that, and it's funny, thank you for that, Mark, because in the back of it, she has a song list. So
yeah.
this is where things are unfolding. And the song list, I'm only going to give the first and the last. I'm just going to do that because I want folks to pick it up. Number one was Floetry, Butterflies.
Right.
The last song was Carl Thomas, Give You All My Love. There's 12 songs on this playlist.
You can't have a book about a nightclub without having a playlist.
Exactly.
Okay.
You got to put some music in there. Yeah.
Yes, definitely so. So when I get back to this, so in book 2, now do you have a date for that or
no? Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Okay. But I just want to say, although they both have their own trauma that they are growing through, they don't save each other. They witness each other. So that's
when you say witness, explain that. When you say witness,
I see you. I know. I understand you. I support you. I'm here to, be with you, not control you. You don't need me to be your savior. I want you to want to be with me, kind of, right?
Was there anything, not to give too much away, because I know one of the things with relationships, sometimes folks don't understand their love language. So do you think, could you say it's a little bit of trauma? So was there any betrayal in it? I don't want to give too much, but they say love shouldn't hurt. So because it was light trauma, did it in reference, just for the readers, to their love story, or can you give us a little taste, the listeners?
There is a oh my God moment. That didn't just happen. Like, are you serious? So there is that moment, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't want to give it away. I want you to.
Don't want to give it away, and I understand that. But you said something that I was really impressed with as an author, because I think that too often authors, whether they be movies or television or books, they give too much away. And I'm a big fan of letting people use their imagination to dictate the stories and to bring the story to life for themselves. Because not everybody's going to have the same interpretation of the book. I mean, I hate to bring in religion, but it's kind of like the Bible. Not everybody's going to read the same passage in the Bible and get the same meaning and everything like that. But I just wanted your take on that, because it sounds like you did this intentionally, is that you want the people to be engaged in the conversation on their own and to create their own storylines, and not necessarily a storyline that you're dictating to them.
Well, and I also intentionally left my photo off of the book because I didn't want the book to be boxed into a certain type of genre. I didn't want people to assume, oh, this is one of those books, right? I want people to dive in and make it their own world, right? Yeah, there's a storyline, so that's just the guide. But when you're using your imagination and you're getting lost in the story, you're getting lost as a part of the story. And if I say, if you have a best friend that doesn't look like my description, right? It's not as easy to imagine yourself in that world. So it was definitely very intentional. I wanted anyone who read that to be able to say, oh, I could be in that friend group, or I could have a friend group like that, or that's my friend group, right?
Thank you for that, because that explains why it's a favorite. Because I'm looking here, it says reader's favorite 5 stars. So can you explain to us, who gave you this honor, 5 stars? And I think that usually happens when there's no photo, because now you use your imagination. And congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was very humbling. So Reader's Favorite is a website, and they have readers through their website that review books. So I got the 5 stars because I met their requirements on all of their categories: the cover, the storyline, the characters, the setting, right? So yeah, it was very
Thank you.
humbling when I received that.
Thank you so much. And there's just so much to go. And I really want to go into this book club. So we're going to talk offlines for this. But this book right now has pulled me in. I can't wait to see all of the issues and things like that, because now we want something that folks can have information that's going to help them, because there's so much in the social media right now and it's affecting relationships. The children, we talked about the word bruh on the couch, and that's next week at Saturday at 11 a.m. And even as a teacher, I know that you meet a lot of the high schoolers right now. Would you say that they are on target for where we were, or can you get us an honest opinion of that? Because right now, you know, as my nephews are in the beginning of high school, freshmen, it's a lot. And so what could you speak to that, because now with the parallel with the book?
What do you mean on target for where we are?
Where would you think socially? I know that, you know, one of the concerns that I talk with some of the parents is that if the child missed some years because of COVID. I have a nephew who missed, and he's a little bit delayed with certain things because of that. So now with high schoolers, do you feel that those children, because about, you have to think when COVID was and now they're here, do you feel that it impacted their social skills?
Yeah. Okay. So I don't want to just blame that 100% on COVID. I see social media playing a big role in that. How they're trying to portray themselves on social media, and the distraction of these devices. I think all of those things are contributing, and yeah, it's affecting social skills, right? When you're on social media, you're very bold to say things that you would not say in person, right? You don't consider that there's another human on the other end of that. So, yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, because I'm concerned with the schools, just as being a mentor going in, and you know, another word is big bag. There's just different things that I'm hearing, and what I try to do is to encourage them. You know, sticks and stones, they break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And that's what we're talking about, because these children are at a fundamental age. And as my niece turns into being a teenager, my nephews are teenagers, it's hard. So now with this type of book, age group wise, you know, what age would you recommend this for? In high school, would you say 9th grade? What would you recommend?
Oh, I was very concerned when that student came to me and said, "I'm reading your book," and I'm like, "Oh no, this is not."
What would age group would you say that if we want to recommend this as a stocking stuffer, you know, college age? What would you recommend for the listener?
College. Yes.
Okay.
So
Thank
not
you.
high school, you're thinking more college age and everything like that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Hey, Tony.
I want to add, I do have a friend who's a teacher, and one of the comments I hear him tell his students, what people say about you is none of your business.
Exactly.
Do not let that control how you feel about yourself and who you are. So I have adopted that saying too. What people say about you is none of your business. Just keep it moving.
And I have heard that, so I concur, because that will taint you. And as the little girls are listening, anyone that you love, because the age that we're listening to, just even now, just I'm happy for Cardi B. She's the first artist to sell out her tour. That is good. And one of the songs I was listening to, because now with the children, I have to monitor what they listen to. And it's just some of the stuff, and I'm like, and I let them unfold it. Because if I jump out and say, then I won't know what's really authentically happening with them when I'm not there. And so I know you see a lot, you hear a lot. So you as a teacher, has there anything that you had to jump in and you think about the characters in your book and you're like, wait a minute, they're too young for this? Have you seen that? Any similarities with, you know, the situations that you experience in the halls or just interacting day to day?
Young people do think that they're grown-ups.
Yep.
And they are not.
Exactly.
But I mean,
too early.
There's a struggle, you know, they're in between not being a child anymore and not quite being an adult, and they're still learning who they are. So yeah, there's a struggle, and sometimes that struggle has them really working hard to be accepted, doing things that they don't normally do as part of their regular character, but they want acceptance from their peers. And that I struggle with because it's hard. It's hard. You can't
Yeah.
monitor everything all the time. But like if I do hear something, I do try to help guide, right? Yeah.
Tony, do you think
Thank you
some of
for
them are
saying that,
rushing?
because some people don't do that anymore. They
Yeah.
don't. It used to be a village where I would go outside, and I know Dr. Diamond will attest. I would go somewhere. I'm calling your mother. The call would reach me before I go home. I heard you was on so and so street. I'm like,
For sure.
so
Yeah, I had
finally
that
I
too.
gave it up.
No, I
I
think
had
we all
that.
had that and everything. But Tony, do you think that sometimes
The
they're rushing
villages back in
into?
the day.
Yeah, do you think that sometimes they're rushing too much into relationships? I'm not saying that we didn't have early relationships. There were people that had relationships even in high school and junior high and everything like that. But it does seem like some of our kids are trying to rush too fast into relationships, whether that's the physical aspect of it or even the emotional aspect of it. And I'm just wondering, as a teacher, you find that a lot of our kids are rushing too fast into relationships because it's been glamorized, whether it's in media or social media and everything like that. They're trying to find that quote unquote love of their life, and they're still trying to find themselves.
No, I don't see the love of your life. I just do see the connection, wanting a
Right.
connection, right?
Right.
I mean, you still get the kids kissing in the hallway every now and again, but I walk by, ill, make light of it, because when I was a kid, the more you were on me, the more I wanted to do what you were on me about. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So, yeah,
The more
just
criticized you
It's
were.
different now.
yeah.
Oh, it's much different. And I know we're
Oh,
wrapping up, but I did have
can,
one
can
last
I
question.
can I
Kind of based
jump
on
in
the
here? Can I jump
yeah,
in?
go ahead.
Because I know
Go
I
ahead.
was letting you
Of course.
guys say. So I want to talk about relationships. But when you talk about relationships, you got to also think about what we did as kids. There's nothing really so different. I think
Right.
because you see it now they have social media, you think it's so different. It's not. It's just that it is more out there because of social media. If they didn't have that, guess what? You will still be guiding that person that's growing. You're
Yeah.
grooming them to become an adult in some point in their life. And also, they have to find themselves. And
Yeah.
socialization is important, and they're going to go through it. But it's
Yeah.
what we do as adults to
I
help
just
them.
see them being kids.
That's it.
Right. And
That is
that's where I
simply
wanted
it.
to,
Yeah.
and I
As
wanted
simple
to
as
open
that.
that up because you said about the book. And I just know being with these little girls, and I actually had to spend some time on Sunday with some of them, and I had to let them be them, and then I corrected them. So the point I'm making is to saying this publicly is sometimes I've seen situations where there may be folks who don't pay attention, and that's when things are done. And what I do as a mentor and as an auntie, I'm not everybody's auntie, I will correct it. So that's why I'm mentioning it, just to see if it's parallel, because these children are in middle
Well, I'm
school
curious to
that
know,
are on the brink
if
of
you don't
going
mind me
junior high.
asking, what was it that you were correcting? Could you give me an example of what you're correcting? What is it that you're
Oh,
correcting
you
or
mean me
had
or
to
to
correct?
Tony?
No, you. You
I
said
first I
I
had to
had to
okay, I
correct.
had to correct. Remember last week on your show we talked about the common bruh. And it was ironic on Sunday. I'm listening to the little girls, 11 and 12 years, saying bruh. I said, wait a minute. I said, do you have male parts? So that's why I brought that up, because I just heard that and I had to correct, and I listened in some of the music, they had clean version, and I'm listening to this because they're all together. We're going somewhere, and it was something that I had to listen to. So now I'm going to pay a little bit more because now they're interacting. So then I'm wondering what happens outside of that. So now, because she is a teacher, I wanted to know how that's going to look on her age level. And it also sometimes it could be location of where you are and things like that. But I was happy that I was able to be in the room because now I know what I need to pay attention to. So that's the reason why I brought it up.
Well, yeah. So well, this is something that you can address later on, or go back to when as you're mentoring the young people. But when you're meeting them where they are, you're also going to ask, can you define why that term? What does
I
that
did do
mean?
that.
Because once you get that terminology of where they're coming from, then you can understand why it's used, because it goes back to the things we used to state back in the day. We would explain it. and say, this is why I'm saying it, because this is the generation that they're in. I think it's all about, really, I can hear you saying about the correcting part, but what does it mean to them in their day and age? Because just like us, we had different terms as well. And I know a lot of the times I did explain,
and the definition that I got was not correct. And I can't really say, because, you know, I don't want to get into that, but I asked it what it was, and it wasn't correct. It was not correct. So that's why I went into that.
I was asking you a question, but you kind of cut me off, but I'm good. Thank you.
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to cut it off. I don't want to, just based on the person that, you know, of that, what I said, because of the capacity that I was in. But that's where it heightened me, and I listened to figure out where it came from, and it wasn't the response that I thought I was going to get.
Hey,
so,
Tony,
but thank you. But, you know, we'll talk, Dr. Diamond, about that offlines. Definitely so, because that conversation is not done.
That's fine. I just gave my feedback. I was curious about it because, again, generations are not a lot that different. You know, we evolve, and but as the terminology comes about, when we're talking about social media, we didn't have that, you know. So again, when you're working with teenagers or you're around them and you're mentoring them, you know, I guess I'm looking at, from the therapist point of view, you're meeting people where they are to understand them. And that's the same thing with children, teenagers, especially the preteens. We do need to understand how they operate, because you got to ask them to understand how they operate. And also, they're more hypersensitive to be defensive based on what you're asking them. So that's what I'm saying about that with the conversation, because the conversation, I think as adults, sometimes we shut the kids off, and that's when they start going around and talking to each other and developing a different point of view on things. And then we will say, well, that's wrong. Well, you kind of push them towards that area because you cut them off based on the communication. So for me, like I last week when we talked about communication is the foundation of everything. So we have to communicate on all levels.
No, speaking of communication being this foundation, that's where I was going to go, because Tony, you mentioned being of a interracial background, and even though I might be light skinned, both of my parents.
Well, Mark, I want to pause it. Can we just close that one thing?
There's a question about education, and that's why I was going to let her close it with the education question, because it's based on a story that I saw. So I'm going to ask you, it's kind of similar to what Dr. Diamond did to wrap us up and everything like that. But I would just wonder,
yes, definitely so.
Do you think that our kids are more aware than we give them credit for? Because one of the things that I do is I grade the test papers, and I was amazed at this one kid that wrote a paper that was supposed to be about a stage play and all along that lines and everything like that, and a fictional character, but they wound up going into a whole discussion about binary and relationships and the LGBT community that I was not expecting from a 9-year-old, because these were like fourth graders that I was graded.
Yes, it's very
it was like on a college level. So they seem to be more intuitive, and they seem to be more aware of everything, whether it's interracial dating or whether it's like cross-cultural dating, or whether it's dating around different orientation. So I was just wondering, from Tony as our teacher and our guest, her thoughts around this, because I'm blown away by some of the things that I read, because I'm going like, this looks like a college level kid.
Well, I think kids are more aware of differences, but they're also more accepting. Right. So they understand that not everybody comes in a box, the same box. So yeah, I agree with you. They are more aware, but again, they're also more accepting, which I think we need, right? We're so quick to judge and so quick to, I don't know, dismiss people because they're different than us. But I like that the younger generations, they don't do that initially.
Yeah. I agree. I think you wanted to close out with the video of her book and everything like that, and also the song.
Yeah, so let me just
go ahead.
Yeah, so we can get to our parting words, but I'm glad that we scratched the surface today. And thank you so much, Tony. And I know I want you back when you do to see what's going to happen with Samantha. And I like this, the second part of the as a student. And thank you for entertaining that, because again, the children are different. And someone just said it's so different these days. And I agree. So what I did, and just in my closing remarks of that, was it's just meeting people where they are. And I'm just trying to, you know, be of service, because looking at, you know, as far as different characters, and working with my niece and her friends, and being able to have that open dialogue, so that we can move forward, because eventually they're going to grow up and they're going to experience stuff. And just for anyone that's listening, we do ask questions so we can address that. You know, there's always, you see something, you say something, and again, not everyone has those same upbringings. I know I didn't. So I always just try to make sure and give the love that certain areas that I felt that I needed. And that's the whole purpose of me speaking to other women and the women that I worked with. That's really what this is. You know, you're not perfect. However, I want to be able to have a voice. And that's all that we're doing here in the Butterfly Room, is because sometimes, you know, you say something, it can reach someone. The book today, when I pulled out and said what I was going to do, from there, you have some listeners, some readers who are going to come from this show. And hopefully you're going to let me know offhand, you know, what happened. And then we can work on that book club, because I would love to see that. Because I know some folks do virtual book clubs. You have one in person. Is it virtual? Okay, so please share that information on the Butterfly Room so that we can participate in that. And I want to say thank you again. But customary, we're going to do our parting words. I guess we could start with Mark, and then we'll work our way around. And then we have.
I'm going to make mine very simple, and all along those lines. One, I'm going to make it a pleasure, and it was a pleasure to meet Tony, to introduce her to her twin sister, or her twin cousin, the artist that I introduced her to at the beginning, because that is definitely somebody that looks like her. And like I said, I think that Margot originally lived somewhere up in the Northeast, so they might actually be related for all I know, and everything like that. Because I actually had a conversation earlier today where somebody was trying to find their adoptive parents and everything like that, because they were adopted. Well, they're natural parents. They were adopted, and they're trying to find their natural parents here in Durham. So I'm doing some cold case research to see what I can help them in that journey, because that can be another traumatic journey that we could talk about on another show, and all along those lines. But I just reached out to them, and they were in, I think, somewhere in the Northeast, like maybe Baltimore or something like that. I forget exactly where they were, but I'm doing that research and everything. And the last thing I'm going to tell to you, Miss Tony, is that I actually have friends that are in the movie business and some that are in the television. I don't have any that are Netflix connected, so I will try to put you in touch with them and see if they can get you that series.
I will take it. Thank you.
So
thank you.
That connection with you, because as Dr. Diamond will tell you, Miss April, and to some degree Toya, even though Dr. Diamond has known me longer because of the podcast that I did with her husband, I am a major connector and love connecting people in general and everything like that. So I will definitely connect you with some people that I know that are in that movie, documentary, television world, and we'll see where it goes.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay. So when we talked about the theme, You Are Your Own Awakening, I just want to say, like, this story resonates with that theme, because it challenges the idea that healing means becoming quieter or easier, right? It doesn't. I mean, not for Samantha, right? It shows that empowerment can look messy, guarded, or imperfect. And it centers choice, not rescue, right, as the foundation of love in this romance. So
yes,
I hope you enjoy it. I really do.
Yes. Thank you. Dr. Diamond?
From hearing you talk about your book today, I think it gives everyone else another avenue to look at, how do I go or embark on healing if I've been through some form of trauma or traumatic experiences. And these characters are allowing them to escape, but also find a way to step towards what healing looks like. And I like how you did that, because I can recommend this book or your series to a lot of my clients that I have that are actually going through this. And because I specialize in trauma, I like where you're going with it, because again, it gives them a different avenue versus all of the other traditional ways of trying to walk through healing, through the therapeutic view. You have a different view, and I like that. And it gives, again, another way to walk through a healing road, even with another person in the book that eventually will cross paths, and how they get together and what you have vaguely shared with us. So I'm very interested in your entire series, and I would like to recommend it to those that are walking through their journeys. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful parting words. And that's basically what we wanted to do today, just introduce the series to the readers of the Butterfly Room, as well as have an opportunity for someone to dive into someone outside of yourself. And if you are an avid reader, books can help you escape. And sometimes for me, I can give me some closure. And one of the things that I'm working on now, when you're thinking about a butterfly morphs. So again, now that it is a series, you just gave me a present, as well as the listeners, because I was unaware it was going to be a full series. And one of the things that we talked about in the previous show is alignment. You know what? We're living for alignment, not for applause. So right now, as we work through all the topics here on the Butterfly Room and all our guests, authors are someone, for me, who take the opportunity to take the gift that they have, what they're living, as me, as getting my story out. And I always tell folks, sometimes you have to purge by you writing, having a journal, and you're going to pick that up, and later on it's going to become a book. So thank you for opening up with, this was a journey to write That's Lovely. You have characters. I can't wait to finish this book so that I can continue to understand what's going on and get ready for the prequel, as you said today. So anyone listening to the playback, pick up. We have all your fans here. It says, can't read your second book. So thank you again for meeting us. And we do have a commercial, and thank you for sharing that. And now we're getting into the mind of the author of That's Lovely, Tony McBride. Thank you for blessing us this evening. And we'll see you soon. We have a commercial, and we also have a song. Next week, we have On the Couch, next Saturday at 11 a.m. Catch the playback. Mark, the dinner party, he's on Pod TV. So just follow us on the local platforms, and we'll see you in 2 weeks at 8 p.m. Stay around to listen to the information that we have. Thank you again. Until next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Tony McBride, author of That's Lovely. This is for anyone who thought love would show up one way, and then life said, nope, try this instead. Because sometimes the best kind of love, it shows up unannounced, a little inconvenient, and exactly what you needed. Not to complete you, but to grow with you. That's Lovely is about unexpected connection, timing, and discovering what real love actually looks like. And trust me, it's better than the version.
You ain't gonna be nothing. She don't got nobody. She just like her mama. But God. Little girl with holes in her story. No mama there, no daddy to hold me. Wearing hand-me-down dreams and pain like it's clothing. Trying to feel seen in a world that ignored me. They call me broken before I could speak. Said my whole future already weak. Told me I'd be everything they see in the streets before I even had a chance to be me. How you write me off before I try. How you call my end before my life. You don't know the tears I cried. You don't know what God designed. Who would have thought I'd still be standing after they counted me out, left me abandoned? Who would have thought I'd find my way when all they spoke was doubt and shame? They said I wouldn't be anything, said I'd repeat every broken thing. But look at me now, I'm living proof Said I'd have babies, no man in my life. Said I'd be stuck just trying to survive. Never rise, never thrive. Compared to my sisters, like I was less, like I was the one they didn't expect. Every word they threw tried to bury me deep, but grace kept calling, calling on me. Every curse I had to fight, every label stole my side, but grace stepped in right on time and rewrote every line. Who would have thought I'd still be standing after they counted me out, left me abandoned? Who would have thought I'd find my way when all they spoke was doubt and shame? They said I wouldn't be anything, said I'd repeat every broken thing. But look at me now, I'm living proof. It was nothing but God that brought me. You said I was nothing, God said I'm chosen. You said I was broken, God said I'm whole. You said I'd be lost, God said I know her. Before she was formed, I called her my Who would have thought I'd still be standing after everything? I'm still here breathing. Who would have thought I'd overcome everything they said I'd become? They said I wouldn't be anything, but God had a plan for me. Now look at me now, I'm living proof. Grace had the final say. Now to you. Who would have thought the girl they gave up on would be the one God chose?